Friend, there is a reason why Sean Hannity and I and others like us are so good looking. And Cambridge University has figured it out. Also, tonight, in just a little while, President Donald Trump gives the State of the Union address. I'll talk to you about what he has accomplished and why he's hated. And this is not going to be a child-friendly episode because we're going to look at the 3 H's and how they have affected human history. I'm Randall Terry. This is Voice of Resistance. Welcome to the program, friend. For comic relief, Cambridge University has released a study showing the correlation between good looks and conservative political values. Now, when I heard about this, I thought, oh, they finally figured out that people who tend to be more conservative, and this is about American politics, tend to be more religious, tend to have lifestyles that are less self-destructive, and in the end, it impacts the way they look. No. What this study did was it said that people become Republican because they see people who are good looking, who are Republicans, and then they want to model their philosophy. Which is another way of saying that Republicans are really shallow people. That we're just in pursuit of looking good. And so because he's articulate and well-spoken and well-dressed, oh, I want to be a success like him, i.e. I want to look good and sound good. So therefore, I'm going to gravitate toward him and then begin to emulate his political beliefs. Now, the fallacy of this can be seen instantly when you look at the beautiful people. Who are the beautiful people today? It's the Hollywood elite. Good grief, we just saw the Grammys not long ago. We saw the Academy Awards. I mean, if you want to showcase, if you want to put models up on pedestals about beauty and they're articulate, they say their lines so well and they're so well dressed with their multiple $1,000 dresses and gowns and suits and perfect hairdos, it would be Hollywood. And they're all left-wingers. Not all. 90% of them are maniacally left-wing. So if this study were true, the people who see, the rabble, who see the beautiful people, the successful people, the people making tons of money, we would want to emulate them and hence go, and what are your political beliefs? Really? You sleep with all those people? Really? You do all those drugs? Really? You have that kind of a lifestyle? Oh, that's what I want because I could be successful like you. It's absurd. These people, it's the whole concept of they're so open-minded that their brains have leaked out. But then they want us to believe their insanity. Let me move on, please. You got to stay with me for the 3 H's, all right? Stay with me, and you're going to want to hear. But again, I'm warning you ahead of time. The 3 H's, it's just not exactly child-friendly. But first, Donald Trump in just a few minutes is going to give the State of the Union address. So here's a couple of things to watch out for. Will the Democrats have someone shout from the seat? You will remember a few years ago, a Republican, I forget his name, yelled out, "Liar," or "You're lying," during one of President Obama's State of the Union addresses. He was roundly condemned, chided by everyone from all quarters, and he was forced by the Republican leadership to apologize. Okay? Donald Trump has some really good speechwriters around him, but more importantly, Donald Trump is a great speech giver. Okay? And when he was on the stump, he was going usually from the hip. Once in a while, he would have notes. He would play the crowd. He would touch on the themes that mattered to him. And if somebody in the crowd yelled out at him, he would go off on them. Look at the fake media back here. Look at them. He would just mock them. And use the air in the room, the magic, the magnetism, the hostility. He'd use it on the fly with great success. If I were a Democrat consultant, we would be considering right now, in very hushed tones, right, with Nancy Pelosi going, "I don't want to know about it," right, with Schumer, Charles Schumer saying, "I don't want to know about it," they would be discussing having somebody yell something out, standing up and leaving. All right, that's one thing that they could do. to get him off his game. Because what they believe is that if they can provoke President Trump and get him to stumble, to take the bait, that once he departs from those teleprompters and once he departs from his script, that he's going to say something that gets him in deep trouble, and that's the soundbite. That's the clip that's played over and over and over. And I'm telling you right now, there are Democrats who are discussing. There are people who are discussing if they could get a ticket to get in the balcony to disrupt the speech. Because the shallow Hal media, they're going to play that clip. They're not going, if that happens, they're not going to highlight the president's speech and what his administration has accomplished in its first year in office. They're going to talk about the Democratic congressman or the Democratic senator or the Democratic activists who stood up, yelled out, walked out, made a scene, and then Trump reacted in this way. If I was a Democratic operative, I'm telling you right now, that's what I would do. I'll tell you a story when I come back about how we did it. That's how I know, friends. I've used the playbook. Don't go away. Today, many so-called Christian intellectuals believe that the God of evolution used billions of years of death and destruction to evolve the bodies of the first human beings. Then, they simply declare the theory of evolution as fact to justify their unproven scientific fallacies. By the grace of God, more and more Catholics are rejecting this modern-day mythology in favor of the traditional doctrine of creation, as recorded by the Bible, and believed and taught by all the fathers and doctors of the Church. To find out how sound theology and natural science confirm the sacred history of Genesis, visit the Colby Center for the Study of Creation, and be sure to check out our bookstore, which has titles like I Have Spoken to You from Heaven, A Catholic Defense of Creation in 6 Days, and A Catholic Assessment of Evolutionary Theory. That's the Colby Center for the Study of Creation. Coming up in a moment, the 3 H's and how they impact history and how they're, how that's playing on American politics right now. But first, if I was a Democratic operative, I would be trying to figure out a way, without the knowledge and consent, wink, wink, of Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer and other Democratic leaders. I'd be trying to figure out a way to get somebody to disrupt the meeting, to disrupt the State of the Union, and then to condemn it. That's the beauty. Get somebody to fall on their sword. That's what Machiavelli would do. I mean, that's what the political insider would do. I inspire this action to take place, and then I condemn it. Because the media will focus on that. A few years ago, I led a team of pro-life activists in Washington, D.C., very dedicated group of people. We called ourselves Insurrecta Nex, which is Latin for revolution against the murder of human beings, so pro-life group. So the Democratic leaders, under the leadership of Howard Dean, former governor of Vermont, former presidential candidate, a doctor, and he was the head of the Democratic National Committee for a while. He was hosting a meeting, or was speaking at a meeting in the Washington, D.C. area on Obamacare. Okay, this is before it had passed. 3,000 people were in this massive hall. I had 10 people with me. And I said, look, we're going to disrupt this meeting. We're going to take the meeting hostage, and we're not going to let Howard Dean speak. Okay, that's our mission. Our mission is very simple. So I said to him, just keep your powder dry. Don't say a word. Don't say anything until it's time for Howard Dean to speak. And finally, it was his time, and a congressman whose name eludes me right now stood up and tried to introduce Howard Dean. We stood to our feet and started chanting in unison, we won't pay for murder. We won't pay for murder. Because Obama's health care plan originally wanted just full funding of child killing across the board for everyone. And they were doing everything in their power to get us to be quiet. So the room came unglued. We had people charging at us. I was standing on a chair chanting, and I said, I had one of the guys standing behind me. I said, you've got to stand behind me because they're going to come at me from behind to try and knock me down. So I had somebody behind me keeping the crowd away, which it did happen. I finally did get bumped off the chair, but at least it wasn't a body slam. But anyway, I digress. So we're chanting, I won't pay for murder. I won't pay for murder. Cameras start swarming where? Around us. The congressman gets up and says, this is Randall Terry. He said that he was coming to disrupt the meeting, and he has disrupted the meeting. If he will stop and let Mr. Dean speak, Mr. Terry can come up here and have the microphone and have the first question. I was sorely tempted at that point because this is all happening live on national TV. I was sorely tempted to take that deal, but I didn't do it because the mission was to keep Howard Dean from speaking. So we did this for 5-10 minutes. It went on for a long time. Finally, the police came and grabbed me. Now, by this time, the crowd is screaming, and we have disrupted the room so much that Howard Dean never got to speak. And the next day, the Wall Street Journal wrote, abortion is back in the debate regarding Obama's health care plan. Mission accomplished. The story, this was supposed to be the coronation, Washington, D.C. area, a congressman, Howard Dean president, all these mucky mucks, and 3,000 people in the room, and they were going to sell us on this great thing. And we totally captured the news cycle. So you could be, I had somebody call me, goes, Randall, like 10 minutes later, Randall, I was just watching you on CNN. So if I was a Democratic operative, that's what I'd be discussing right now. How do we disrupt that State of the Union address? Just one line. All it takes is one line. You don't have to disrupt it for 10 minutes. Just one line. Get the president off his speech. Get him reacting to someone in the crowd. And we capture the news cycle. Because what the president is going to talk about, friends, here's what he's going to talk about. Actually, let me take a break. I'll tell you what he's going to talk about when we come back. And you can turn the channel in about half an hour. Turn the channel and you're going to watch the State of the Union address. And you can say, wow, Randall was right. This is what I do. This is how I can serve you. Don't go away. Have Muslim terrorists hijacked the peaceful religion of Islam? Or is there more to the story? The answer lies in the life of one man, Muhammad, the founder of Islam. Muslim terrorists see themselves inside a 1,400-year-old story, a narrative that focuses on specific events in the life of Muhammad. We are going to look at Muhammad's life using their most sacred literature. We will look at Muhammad at the Battle of Badr. We'll see him deal with those who mock him. We'll see the times when he used deception. We'll witness Muhammad's anti-Semitism. And yes, we will discuss Muhammad and his teachings concerning sex, slavery, and jihad. Friend, if you want to understand Islamic terrorism, get this series today. There are a lot of people who question President Trump's sincerity on his political beliefs, in part because as you look over his 30, 40 years of public life, his political beliefs have swung pretty violently at points. I mean, they just have. Not all of them, but some of them, all right? And it's okay. That's okay. He is a businessman. He made a deal with the American voters. And he said, if you elect me, this is what I will do as president. And so he's done everything in his power to hold to his word. He changed the rules for people coming from the 7 nations on the terrorist watch list. He did it twice. And federal tyrants in the judiciary intervened, and Trump's advisor said, let's not get in a spitting match that we can't win. Let's go through the court process, and your authority to do this will, in fact, be vindicated. He said, we're going to build a wall. And so now, brilliant, a week prior to the State of the Union, he said, okay, I'll give the Dreamers citizenship. 0.8 million, 1.8 million, it depends on what number you listen to. But he's offering citizenship if you fund the wall. This was a stroke of genius for two reasons. Number one, these kids are going to become citizens anyway. All right? At the end of the day, we're not going to deport children. Now, they might self-deport when mommy and daddy say, I'm here as an illegal alien, I'm going to take my kids back to my country of origin. But we're just not going to round up kids. We're not. So it's a brilliant move because they're going to become citizens anyway. And now they can remember it was the Republicans who gave us citizenship. But there's another reason that this is political genius. The Democrats are saying they won't take the deal. And what that means is that the Democrats want illegal immigrants. They want open borders. They do not want to enforce immigration laws. And so they've fallen into a trap. It's genius on behalf of Trump and his people. But to continue on, he's a businessman. He said, I'm pro-life. I'm going to appoint pro-life judges. That's what he's done. He was the first president to address visually to a pro-life march, the March for Life. No one did it, not even President Reagan. President Reagan phoned it in with Nellie Gray. He did a phone line. But President Trump held a satellite rally, they called it, in the Rose Garden, and he spoke. That was a big deal. President Trump said he's going to get tough on China. He's going to deal with the NAFTA and the North American Free Trade Act. He's doing all of that he said. And the Dow is up 43%. That's really frightening, all right? On a strictly economic level, when President Trump took office, the Dow has increased in its value 43%. Those numbers are crazy. That means people are making a ton of money on the stock market. President Trump said he would have a tax plan. He did it. And oh my goodness, even companies like Starbucks are now giving raises or offering health care to some of their employees. And they're saying, Starbucks is saying, that it's because of the new tax policy. I mean, Starbucks is a left-wing company. But they are admitting by their behavior that President Trump's tax reduction was a benefit to the employees. I think it was Comcast, Xfinity, who gave thousands of their employees bonuses at Christmas because of the tax cut. So the Democrats have been saying, well, this tax cut is only going to help the top 3%. No, look, when those top 3% get more money in their pockets, they are passing it on to their employees. That was what Donald Trump said would happen. That is what is happening. And friends, the more that sinks in, especially in the Rust Belt states, especially in the swing states where manufacturing really matters and jobs really matter, that's going to have an enormous impact on the 2020 election. Okay? So they don't want that narrative. The Democrats do not want that narrative to be out there. Hence, they constantly are focusing on Russia and was he going to fire Robert Mueller? And now the bimbo. To use the phrase from the President Clinton era, the bimbo eruption. So when I come back, we will talk about the 3 H's and how they have impacted human history, how they've impacted you, how they've impacted your faith. All right? The 3 H's have impacted your faith. I'll be right back. What Would Mohammed Do? Islamic Terrorism Explained is the best movie series documentary ever produced on the life of Muhammad and Islam. How do I know? Because it's what critics are saying. John Moore, radio host and author, said, I learned more from What Would Mohammed Do about Islam and Islamic terrorism than I've learned from everything I ever read and watched in my entire life. Best-selling author Dr. Bill Warner said, What Would Mohammed Do is the best movie series, TV production on the life of Muhammad and Islamic terrorism that has ever been produced. Friends, this is what the experts are saying. No one has ever done what we've done. I encourage you to get 1, 2, 4 copies. Call 304-289-3700. That's 304-289-3700, or order it at the address or the website that you see on the screen. Friend, we have a series that will help you and those you love to have an impact on this country. It's called Insurrecta Nex. That's Latin for revolution against the killing of innocent people. This is the history, the philosophy, and the theology of social revolution in America. We look at the Stamp Act, the Boston Tea Party, the abolition of slavery, the abolition of child labor, women's voting rights, the civil rights movement. All of them have this in common: courage, sacrifice, dedication, and in-your-face tactics and rhetoric. That's one of the reasons that we've been losing the culture wars the last 40 years, is because the bad guys are using these tactics and we aren't. We will send you this 14-part TV series along with these manuals for students, a teacher's facilitator guide for only $40. Go to 304-289-3700, 304-289-3700. All right, this is the segment that is not child-friendly. We're going to talk about the 3 H's. And the 3 H's are like the 3 R's: reading, writing, and arithmetic. Wait a minute. Only one of those words begins with an R. Writing begins with a W, and arithmetic begins with an A. But we call them the 3 R's. The 3 H's are whores, harlots, and hookers. Okay? So the latest woman who has come out now, and this woman is an executive in the pornography industry. One report says she's worth $4 million. She's a harlot. She's a hooker. She's a whore. That's what she is. She smiles. She's pretty. All right? But she's a harlot. Don't anyone paint this any other way than it really is. But harlots, hookers, and whores have had an enormous impact on human history. Tamar, Judah's daughter-in-law, pretended to be a harlot so that she could get pregnant with Judah's son. And that baby is in the lineage of Christ. Rahab the harlot was a harlot in Jericho. And she's the one who let the thread out of the window so that she was part of the spy network. She ended up marrying into the lineage of our Lord Jesus Christ. Think about that. Ruth, the Moabitess. Ruth was a descendant of Lot's daughter who got her dad drunk and then slept with him so that they could have a baby, because they thought that the world had come to an end when Sodom and Gomorrah were destroyed. Mary Magdalene is called, out of whom Jesus cast 7 demons. She was a harlot. She is called the apostle to the apostles. She was who Jesus appeared to first, who then took the message to the apostles that Jesus was no longer dead, that he rose from the dead. So, oh, and by the way, in the scriptures, there's only 2 batches of money that cannot be put into the temple treasury: the sale of a dog and the price of a harlot. So you're supposed to pay a tithe on things, except not the price of a dog and not the money from a harlot, the money earned from harlotry. So there's a lot in the scriptures about it. And you and I, as Christians, those of us who are Christians, our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, in his family tree, we have Tamar and we have Rahab. Okay? And we have Jesus tapping Mary Magdalene to say, go and tell the apostles. She becomes the apostle to the apostles. This is our heritage, and it shows the redemption of God. So I pray this woman becomes a believer. I pray that she gets saved, because she's got a fiery eternity ahead of her, friends. Make no bones about it. All right? Well, did President Trump have relations with her? How do I know? I wasn't there. It certainly doesn't look good, but that's not the point. The point is policy. So right now, the president has been faithful to his political agenda as much as he can be. He really has. And so the left is coming at him with everything they've got. This false Russian narrative. Was he going to fire Mueller? Is he emotionally, mentally stable? Is he crazy? Are his hands big enough? All this absurdity. And now the whore, the harlot, the hooker has come out. This is about policy, friends. It's about policy. They hate President Trump because of his policies. And they are committed to destroying him because of his policies. So you have to understand, when we defend President Trump and his policies, it's not a blanket protection of every behavior, good and evil, that he's committed in his life. It's a protection of the office and the policies that he is promoting in that office. I'm sorry, I'm out of time. I hope that you enjoy the State of the Union address. Talk to you soon.